I never thought the sound of a phone vibrating against a mahogany nightstand could sound like an executioner's drum. But looking back, that buzz was the exact moment my life split into two distinct timelines, before the call and after. I was in London, 5,000 miles away from our apartment in Chicago, finishing up a 3-week consultation for an architectural firm that wanted to bring American steel aesthetics to the historic district. I felt like a king. I was 29, at the peak of my career, married to the most beautiful woman I had ever seen, Sarah. We had been together since college. We were the couple everyone envied, the ones who finished each other's sentences, the ones who had the 5-year plan mapped out in a spreadsheet. I stared at the phone screen. It was 2 a.m. in London, 8 p.m. in Chicago. Sarah's face popped up on the caller ID, a photo I took of her by the Bean in Millennium Park last summer, wind in her hair, laughing. I slid the answer button, expecting to hear her sleepy voice telling me she missed me, expecting to hear about her day. Instead, I heard a silence so heavy it felt like it sucked the oxygen out of my hotel room. "Hey, babe," I whispered, fighting the jet lag. "I got the contract. We're gonna celebrate when I get back." Silence again. Then a breath, sharp and shallow. "Ethan," she said, and her voice wasn't sleepy. It was cold, detached, like she was reading a script she had rehearsed in front of a mirror. "We need to talk." The 4 words every man dreads, but usually they mean you forgot to take out the trash or you left the toilet seat up. Not this, not what came next. "I'm done, Ethan. I want a divorce." I laughed, a nervous, confused chuckle. "What are you talking about, Sarah? I'll be home in 4 days. You're tired. Go to sleep." "No," she cut me off, sharp as a razor. "I'm not tired. I'm wide awake for the first time in years. I don't love you anymore. I haven't for a long time, and I don't want you to come back to the apartment." My brain couldn't process the data. It was like trying to run high-end rendering software on a pocket calculator. It just crashed. "Sarah, stop. Is this about the arguments? Is this about Mark?" The name hung in the air. Mark, her 24-year-old coworker, the intern who became an associate way too fast, the guy she swore was just a friend, a kid she was mentoring, the guy she texted at midnight because he was having anxiety about a presentation. I had been suspicious, obviously. I'm a man. I know when another man is circling my territory, looking for a weak spot in the fence. But she had gaslighted me to perfection, called me insecure, controlling, paranoid. She sighed, the sound of pure exasperation.
"This isn't about Mark. Ethan, stop making everything about him. This is about us, about how you don't support me, about how we're on different paths. I'm shipping your things to your brother's place. Do not come here. Do not try to fix this. It's over." The line went dead. I stared at the phone. The screen went black, reflecting my own shocked face. I called back, straight to voicemail. I texted, not delivered, blocked. She had blocked me while I was across the Atlantic Ocean, helpless, stranded in a luxury suite that suddenly felt like a prison cell. I paced the room, heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I poured a glass of whiskey from the minibar, my hands shaking so bad I spilled amber liquid on the pristine white carpet. I didn't care. I needed to understand. I needed to wake up from this nightmare. The flight back to Chicago was a blur of suppressed rage and terrifying sorrow. 10 hours of staring at the seat back in front of me, replaying every interaction from the last 6 months, every time she smiled at her phone, every time she came home late smelling of a perfume that seemed too fresh, every time she recoiled when I tried to touch her, claiming she was stressed, claiming she had a headache, claiming I was being too needy. I landed at O'Hare in the middle of a thunderstorm. Fitting. The sky was gray and angry, matching the storm inside my chest. I didn't go to my brother's house. I went straight to our building, or what used to be our building, in the Gold Coast. The doorman, A guy I had tipped generously every Christmas looked at me with pity, asking me not to make a scene. "Mr. Reynolds, she left instructions," he said quietly, eyes darting around, looking for trouble. "She said if you try to go up, I have to call the police. Please, don't make me do that." I stood there, rain dripping from my trench coat, luggage in hand, feeling like a homeless man looking at a castle I built. I built this life. I paid the mortgage. I picked out the furniture, and now I was banned, treated like a criminal. I walked away. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me in handcuffs. I checked into a hotel downtown, a sterile room with a view of the river. And that's where I stayed for 2 months. 2 months of hell, 2 months of silence. I respected her wish, mostly because I was in shock, but also because I had a shred of dignity left. I wasn't going to beg. Not yet. I focused on work, burying myself in blueprints and structural loads, trying to calculate how much weight a human soul can carry before it collapses. My brother told me my boxes arrived, thrown together haphazardly, clothes wrinkled, photos broken. It was a discard, a purge. She erased me like a bad draft. But the mind is a cruel thing. In the silence, the suspicion grew. It festered. Mark. It had to be Mark, that smarmy kid with the cheap suits and the overly ambitious eyes. I remembered the arguments before I left for London, how she defended him. "He's just lonely, Ethan. He looks up to me. You're so toxic for thinking it's anything else." I remembered the company holiday party, how they stood a little too close, how he laughed a little too hard at her jokes, how his hand lingered on the small of her back a second too long before he pulled away when he saw me watching. I felt sick, physically sick. The betrayal wasn't just the leaving, it was the replacement, the idea that I was being traded in for a newer, cheaper model. After 6 weeks of radio silence, my phone lit up. A text from Sarah. "Can we talk?" Just 3 words, but they sent a jolt of adrenaline through my system that nearly stopped my heart. I waited an hour before replying, trying to regain some semblance of power, trying not to look like I had been staring at the phone for 40 days waiting for this. "When?" I typed back. "Tonight, coffee shop on State Street, 8 p.m. I showed up at 7:45, sat in the corner, watched the door. When she walked in, she looked different, tired, pale. Her eyes were darting around nervously, not the confident woman who had exiled me. She sat down, didn't order anything, just looked at me with those green eyes that used to be my home. "I made a mistake," she whispered. My heart leaped. Hope is a dangerous drug. It blinds you to the knife in the other hand. "You want to come home?" I asked, voice steady, masking the turmoil. She nodded, tears welling up, but they didn't fall. "It's been so hard, Ethan. I've been under so much stress. I thought I wanted space, but I was confused. I want to work on us, but..." And there it was, the qualifier, the hook. "But what?" I asked, leaning back, crossing my arms. "If we do this, things have to change," she said, voice gaining a little strength. "I have conditions." Conditions! The audacity was breathtaking. She dumps me, throws me out, ghosts me, and now she has conditions? "I'm listening," I said, curiosity warring with anger. "We need to move to the suburbs immediately," she said quickly. "And I want to start trying for a baby right away. No more waiting for your promotion, no more traveling. You need to quit the traveling consultant gig and take a desk job. You need to be home every night by 5 p.m., and I want access to all your accounts, full transparency, to build trust." I stared at her, mouth slightly open. Wait, to build trust? She was the one who nuked our marriage, she was the one who kicked me out, and she's demanding transparency? It felt wrong, disjointed, like she was trying to lock me down, cage me. Or maybe she was trying to cover something up, hide something. "Why now, Sarah?" I asked, narrowing my eyes. "Why the rush for a kid? You said you weren't ready 2 months ago. You said you wanted to focus on your career. That's why you were spending so much time at the office with Mark." She flinched, just a tiny twitch of her left eye, but I saw it. "Don't bring him into this," she snapped, defensive immediately. "Mark has nothing to do with this. He's been a good friend, supporting me while you were gone, while you were ignoring me." "Ignoring you?" I slammed my hand on the table, rattling the cups. People turned to look. I lowered my voice, a dangerous whisper. "You blocked me, Sarah. You threw me out. Don't rewrite history." She looked down, playing with her rings. "I was emotional, I'm sorry, but if you want me back, these are the conditions. Take it or leave it." I looked at her, really looked at her. I saw the desperation, the fear. This wasn't love, this was panic. She wasn't a woman in love wanting her husband back. She was a woman in trouble looking for a life raft, and I was the raft. Something in my gut, that primal instinct that had kept my ancestors alive, screamed at me, "Run! She's lying! She's using you!" I stood up, the chair scraping loud against the floor. "No," I said, simply, firmly. She looked up, shocked. "What?" I said no, Sarah. I'm not a backup plan, and I'm not a prisoner. I don't accept your conditions, and I don't think you're telling me the truth. She stood up too, grabbing my arm, her nails digging into my jacket. "Ethan, please, don't walk away. You don't understand. I have to. We have to." "Why?" I asked, pulling my arm away. "Why the urgency?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, tears finally spilling over, real tears this time, panic tears. "Because I'm alone," she whispered, barely audible over the espresso machine noise. "Because he left me." The world stopped. The noise of the coffee shop faded into a dull buzz. "He," I repeated, feeling the cold steel of confirmation slice through my chest. "He left you?" She nodded, sobbing now, covering her face with her hands. "Mark," she choked out. "It was Mark. I left you for Mark, and now he's gone." The rage that hit me wasn't hot, it was ice cold, absolute zero. I looked at this woman, this stranger who had destroyed my life for a 24-year-old intern, and now that her fantasy had crumbled, she wanted her safety net back. She wanted me to pay for the house.
Raise the kids and fund the life she couldn't have with her lover. I felt a strange sense of calm, a clarity I hadn't felt in months. "Tell me," I said, voice devoid of emotion. "Tell me everything." Sarah looked at me, eyes red, makeup running, shaking like a leaf. She sat back down, defeated, and the story began to spill out, a toxic sludge of lies, manipulation, and betrayal that was far worse than I had imagined. It wasn't just an affair, it was a conspiracy. They had planned it, she said, sniffing, wiping her nose. Mark told her I was holding her back. Mark told her she deserved someone who understood her passion. Mark planted the seeds every day at lunch, every late night at the office. He told her he loved her, that they were soulmates. He created a fantasy world where they would travel, be a power couple, no kids yet, just freedom. But he needed me out of the picture first. She told me about the night before I left for London, while I was packing, thinking about how much I'd miss her. She was in the bathroom texting him, sending him photos, telling him she couldn't wait to be free. They kissed that night in the parking lot of her office, the day I flew out. She said she felt guilty, but Mark told her it was fate. He told her to cut the cord, to be ruthless. He said, "If you talk to him, he'll manipulate you back. You have to block him. You have to make him leave." It was his idea to ship my things, his idea to change the locks. He practically moved in the day after I left. I listened, feeling like I was watching a movie of someone else's life. My bed, my couch, my kitchen, occupied by this parasite while I was crying in a hotel room in London. But then, the twist. The reason she was sitting here begging. Mark started to change. Once he had her, once the thrill of the chase was over, he got bored, or maybe he got caught. She told me she started noticing things, late texts on his phone, him hiding the screen, him canceling dates. The irony was palpable. She was experiencing exactly what she had done to me. Poetic justice, if it didn't hurt so damn much. Then she found out about the other woman, or should I say, the other women, plural. Mark wasn't just seeing her, he was seeing his ex-girlfriend, and apparently a manager from another department. He was playing the field, using Sarah for her apartment, for her status, for the thrill of breaking up a marriage. When she confronted him, he laughed. He actually laughed at her, told her she was pathetic, told her she was too old for him, told her she was desperate. He dumped her, packed his bag, and walked out, leaving her in the ruins of the marriage she destroyed for him.
And now, here she was, 2 weeks later, realizing she had burned down her castle for a tent that blew away in the wind. She looked at me, eyes pleading, begging for forgiveness, begging for a time machine. I didn't know Ethan. He manipulated me. He's a psychopath, a pathological liar. Please, I still love you. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. I stared at her, silence stretching between us. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table. I wanted to hold her and tell her it would be okay. But I did none of those things. I just looked at the woman who murdered us, and I realized the body was still warm, but it was definitely dead. You didn't come back because you love me, I said, standing up again, buttoning my coat, needing to feel the armor against my chest. You came back because you have nowhere else to go. You came back because you lost. Sarah reached out, trying to grab my hand. Ethan, please! But I stepped back, the distance between us now infinite. I need to go, I said, turning toward the door. Where? She cried out, despair in her voice. Where are you going? I don't know, I said, opening the door to the rainy Chicago night. Anywhere but here. I walked out into the street, the cold wind hitting my face, washing away the suffocating scent of her perfume. I felt numb, hollow. But as I walked, a new feeling started to creep in. Anger. Pure, unadulterated anger. She wanted to tell me Mark was a liar, a psychopath. Well, I wanted to meet this Mark. I wanted to see the man who thought he could destroy my life and walk away laughing. I pulled out my phone, typed a name into the search bar. Mark, the architecture firm. His profile popped up, smiling, confident, unaware that a storm was coming. I wasn't going to take her back, hell no, but I wasn't going to let him get away with it either. The game wasn't over. It was just entering the second half, and this time, I knew the rules. The rain in Chicago doesn't wash things clean. It just makes the grime slicker, harder to hold on to. I sat in my rental car outside a diner in Wicker Park, watching the neon sign flicker, buzz, die, then buzz again. It was the perfect metaphor for my marriage, a cheap gas trying to ignite inside a broken tube. I had left Sarah at the coffee shop 3 days ago, but her words were still echoing in my skull like a bad song. He left me. The man she burned our life down for had discarded her, tossed her aside like a wrapper. I should have felt triumphant. I should have popped champagne and danced on the ashes, but I didn't. I felt a cold, surgical need to understand the anatomy of the murder. I needed to know exactly how Mark did it, how a 24-year-old kid dismantled a 10-year relationship in less than a month. I wasn't going to take her back. That door was welded shut, but I needed to close the case file. I had spent the last 72 hours doing what I do best, analyzing the structure, looking for the stress points. I didn't sleep. I scoured social media, digital footprints, mutual connections. It turns out, Mark wasn't a ghost. He was a pattern. I found an old Instagram account he thought he had deleted, tagged photos from 3 years ago, buried under layers of digital debris. There was a girl, blonde, pretty, looking at him with the same adoration Sarah had. I reached out to her, told her I was working on a background check for a corporate position. A lie, but a necessary one.
Her name was Jessica, and when I mentioned Mark, her voice cracked over the phone. "Stay away from him," she said. "He's a mirror. He becomes whatever you want him to be until he doesn't need you anymore." That phrase stuck with me. He's a mirror. I agreed to meet Sarah again, not because I missed her, but because I needed the rest of the timeline. I needed to see the monster clearly. We met at a park bench near the lake. The wind coming off the water was biting, sharp enough to cut glass. She looked worse than before. Dark circles under her eyes, shivering in a coat that used to look expensive, but now just looked sad. She handed me a coffee, a peace offering I didn't touch. "Start from the beginning," I said, looking out at the gray water. "No more lies, no more trickle truth. If you lie to me once, I walk and you never see me again." She took a shaky breath, wrapping her hands around her cup for warmth. "It started before you left for London," she whispered. "When we were arguing about your work hours, he was always there, hovering. He would bring me lunch, ask me about my dreams, not the career dreams, the real ones, the ones I stopped telling you because you were always so practical. He told me he wanted kids, 3 of them. He told me he wanted to move to the suburbs and build a garden. He told me he loved hiking, pottery, French cinema, everything I loved, Ethan. It was like talking to my soulmate." I clenched my jaw, feeling the bile rise. "He mirrored you," I said flatly. "He downloaded your personality and played it back to you." She nodded, tears streaming down her face, freezing on her cheeks. "I know that now," she sobbed. "I found out later. He hates the outdoors. He hates foreign films. He mocked them to his friends. But at the time, I felt so seen, so understood. You were busy building skyscrapers, and he was busy building a fantasy just for me." She told me about the manipulation, the subtle poison he dripped into her ear every day. He would say things like, "Ethan doesn't appreciate you. Ethan treats you like an accessory. Ethan is controlling." "He made me question my reality," Sarah said, voice trembling. "He told me that if I really wanted to be happy, I had to be brave. I had to cut you off." And then came the confession that made my blood run cold. "The work thing," she said, looking down at her boots. "Remember when I told you I was having trouble with my manager, that I needed to switch teams, and that you were causing stress at home so I couldn't focus?" I nodded, remembering the guilt I felt, thinking I was the reason her career was stalling. "It was a lie," she whispered. "Mark came up with it. He told me to file a complaint, to create a paper trail of personal stress so that when we got together, no one at work would suspect an affair. They would just think I was a woman going through a hard time. He scripted it, Ethan. He literally wrote out the text messages I sent to you. He told me to be cold, to be distant. He said it was the only way to make the break clean." I looked at her, seeing not a wife, but a victim of a con artist. A willing victim, yes, but a victim nonetheless. She had been played by a maestro. "So you blew up our marriage on a script written by an intern," I said, the cruelty of it stunning me. She flinched, but she didn't deny it. "There's more," she said, and her voice dropped to a terrified whisper. I waited, watching a seagull fight against the wind. "After you left, after I kicked you out, he practically moved in, but he was secretive, guardedly. He wouldn't leave his phone unlocked. He would take calls on the balcony. I started to get paranoid, the same way you were paranoid about him. Irony, isn't it?" She let out a dry, humorless laugh. "I checked his Apple Watch while he was in the shower." I turned to look at her, finally making eye contact. "And?" I asked. "He wasn't just seeing me," she said, voice breaking. "He was seeing his ex-girlfriend, the one he swore was crazy, and he was talking to another girl from the marketing department. He was triple timing us, Ethan, playing all of us against each other. I read the messages. He sent the exact same "Good morning, beautiful" text to 3 different women at the same time, copy and paste. I felt a strange sense of detachment, like I was listening to a crime report. This guy wasn't just a cheater, he was a predator. He fed on validation, on chaos. I confronted him, Sarah continued, wiping her nose with her sleeve. I thought he would deny it or apologize, but he didn't. He smiled, Ethan. He smiled at me like I was a child who finally figured out a magic trick. He told me I was boring, that the thrill was gone once I belonged to him. He said, "You were more fun when you were forbidden." I closed my eyes, imagining the scene, the arrogance, the absolute lack of empathy. "He packed his bag in 10 minutes, she said. He took the expensive watch I bought him, took the cash from the emergency jar, and walked out. But before he left, he gave me a condition." "A condition," I repeated, memories of her conditions to me flashing back. She nodded, and this time, the fear in her eyes was primal, real terror. "He told me that if I told anyone at work, if I tried to expose him to HR or tell his other girlfriends, he would ruin me. He said he has screenshots, recordings." "Recordings of what?" I asked, sharp, alert. "Of us," she whispered, shame coloring her face crimson. "Intimate moments, but also messages where I complained about my boss, messages where I admitted to lying about the work situation. Proof that I conspired to manipulate the company structure. He said he would file a report claiming I was the one obsessed with him, that I was a senior associate preying on a junior, that I harassed him. And he has the evidence to prove I was the aggressor because he carefully deleted his side of the chats on my phone when I wasn't looking." I sat up straighter, the architect brain kicking in. This was blackmail, pure and simple. He had engineered the entire relationship not just to sleep with her, but to have leverage. He ensured that if things went south, she would be the one to fall on the sword. "He told me," Sarah stammered, "that unless I delete everything, all the photos of us, all the proof that we were ever together, and never speak to him again, he will send that report to HR and to my parents. He said he'll paint me as a mentally unstable stalker, and with the breakdown I had when you left, people will believe him." She looked at me, helpless, destroyed. "I'm gonna do it," she said softly. "I'm gonna delete everything tonight. I can't lose my job, Ethan. It's the only thing I have left. I lost you, I lost the house. I can't lose my career." I looked at the woman who had broken my heart, and for the first time in months, I didn't see the villain. I saw the wreckage. She was pathetic, weak, and foolish, but she was being hunted by something far worse. This guy, this Mark, he thought he was playing chess, thought he was 5 moves ahead. He thought he could dismantle my life, use my wife as a playground, and then threaten her into silence so he could move on to the next victim without a scratch. He thought he could win by default because we were too broken to fight back. He was wrong. I stood up, the cold wind whipping my coat around my legs. "Don't delete anything," I said, my voice low, steady, darker than the storm clouds above. "What?" Sarah looked up, confused, frightened. "Ethan, I have to. He'll destroy me." "No," I said, reaching out, hand open. "Give me your phone." She hesitated, clutching the device to her chest like a lifeline. "Why? What are you gonna do?" I looked at her, and I felt a shift inside me. The sadness was gone, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I wasn't doing this for her. I wasn't doing this to save our marriage. That was dead and buried. I was doing this because men like Mark thrive in the dark. They thrive on silence, on fear, on the shame of their victims. "He thinks he's the architect," I said, stepping closer, towering over her. "He thinks he drew the blueprints for this disaster. But he forgot one thing, Sarah." "What?" she whispered. "He forgot that I'm the one who actually builds things, and I know exactly how to bring a structure down." I took the phone from her trembling hand. It was warm, unlocked. I saw the thread with Mark, the threats, the gaslighting, the evidence he thought he could bully her into erasing. "He wants a war," I said, scrolling through the messages, watching the face of the enemy appear on the screen, smug, confident, untouchable. I pocketed her phone, staring at the Chicago skyline, sharp and jagged against the gray sky. "Let's give him one." I turned and walked toward my car, leaving her sitting on the bench, stunned, silent. I didn't look back. I had work to do. I had a blueprint to draft, and for the first time in a long time, I knew exactly what the final result would look like. Complete, total demolition. I didn't sleep that night. My hotel room turned into a command center, the blue light of 3 monitors illuminating the darkness like a submarine bridge. I had Sarah's phone plugged into my laptop, running a forensic recovery software I used for recovering corrupted CAD files. Mark thought he was clever deleting his side of the messages. He thought hitting remove on a screen meant the data vanished into the ether. Typical amateur mistake. He didn't understand that digital footprints are like footprints in wet concrete. Once they set, they are there forever. You just have to know how to strip away the top layer of dirt to find them. I watched the progress bar crawl. 80%, 90%, 100%. And there it was, the ghost in the machine. Thousands of messages restored, time-stamped, and damning. I read them, feeling a cold, detached fascination. It was a masterclass in manipulation. He would text Sarah at 10:02 a.m. telling her she was the only one who understood him, then text Vanessa, the manager he was seeing, at 10:04 a.m., telling her she was a goddess and he was just tolerating the clingy older woman on his team, meaning Sarah. I printed everything. Piles of paper stacking up on the desk, a physical monument to his deceit. I saw the threats, the gaslighting, the specific instructions on how to lie to me. Tell him you're working late. Send this photo of your screen. I'll be in the parking lot in 10. If you don't block him, I can't trust you. Prove to me you're serious. And then, the smoking gun, the blackmail. If you say a word to HR, I'll leak the photos. I'll say you forced me. Who are they going to believe? The crying, desperate divorcee or the rising star? I stared at that message, feeling a muscle twitch in my jaw. Rising star. I was about to turn this star into a black hole. But data wasn't enough. I needed leverage. I needed to cut off his escape routes. Mark was a parasite, and parasites need a host to survive. Right now, his host was the firm, and specifically, Vanessa, the senior manager he was sleeping with to secure his promotion. I did a quick search on Vanessa. Successful, 42, reputation for being tough as nails, a woman who sacrificed everything for her career. Mark was playing her, using her insecurity about her age, telling her she was ageless, feeding her the same lines he fed Sarah. I found her email, corporate address. I typed a subject line that I knew she couldn't ignore. Subject, the intern, the lie, and the evidence. I didn't send the files. Not yet. I just sent a time and location. If you want to know who Mark really is, meet me at the Starbucks on Michigan Avenue, 7 a.m. Come alone. I didn't know if she would show, but I gambled on human curiosity and the intuition of a woman who probably, deep down, already suspected that the 24-year-old intern wasn't dating her for her personality. 7 a.m. Michigan Avenue was waking up, the wind howling through the concrete canyons. I sat at a window seat, watching the door. At 7:05, she walked in. Tailored suit, sharp bob cut, eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses, looking like she was walking into a merger negotiation. She spotted me, hesitated, then walked over, sliding into the chair opposite me without taking off her glasses. "You're the husband?" she said, voice clipped, professional. "I'm the architect," I corrected, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "And you're the next victim." She looked at the envelope, then at me, sneering slightly. "If this is some jealous ex-revenge plot, I don't have time. Mark told me you were unstable, that you couldn't handle the divorce." I didn't flinch. I just tapped the envelope. "Read it, Vanessa. Look at the timestamps, look at the dates, look at the message on page 4 where he calls you his ticket to the VP suite, and then look at page 5 where he tells my wife she's his soulmate on the exact same night you two were in Cabo." She froze, her sneer vanishing. Her hand hovered over the envelope, shaking slightly. She opened it, pulling out the stack of papers. I watched her face. It was like watching a building demolition in slow motion, the structural integrity failing, the facade cracking. She read for 10 minutes, silence stretching between us, interrupted only by the hiss of the espresso machine. She got to the blackmail section, the part where he threatened Sarah with false reports. Vanessa lowered the papers, took off her sunglasses. Her eyes were hard, cold, furious. "He told me," she whispered, voice deadly quiet, "that he was single, that your wife was stalking him, that he was afraid of her." "He's a mirror, Vanessa," I said, repeating Jessica's words. "He tells you what you want to hear until he gets what he wants. He wants your job, he wants your status, and he's using you to get it. And once he's done, he'll discard you just like he discarded Sarah, and he'll probably blackmail you too." She looked at the photo of Mark, the smiling face of the man she was sleeping with, and then she looked at me. "What do you want?" she asked. "I don't want money. I don't want an apology," I said, leaning forward. "I want him gone. I want him exposed. I want to make sure he never does this to another woman again." Vanessa took a deep breath, pulled out her phone, and typed a message, not to Mark, but to someone else. "Come to the office at 9 a.m., she said, standing up. "Bring Sarah and bring the originals." I walked into the lobby of the architecture firm at 8:59 a.m. Sarah was waiting by the elevators. She looked terrified, pale, clutching her purse like a shield. When she saw me, she looked relieved, but I didn't smile. This wasn't a reunion. This was business. "Just tell the truth," I said, stepping into the elevator. "Don't embellish, don't cry, just facts." We went up to the 40th floor. The glass doors opened to a bustling office, modern, sleek, expensive. I saw Mark immediately. He was standing by the water cooler, laughing with a group of other associates, holding a coffee cup, looking like he owned the place. He saw us, and for a second, I saw the panic. His eyes widened, his smile faltered, but he recovered quickly, the arrogance kicking in. He walked over, chest puffed out, trying to intimidate us on his turf. "Sarah," he said, voice loud enough for people to hear, "I told you to stop following me. This is harassment. I'm going to call security." He looked at me, sneering, "And you brought backup. Pathetic." I didn't say a word. I just kept walking, past him, toward the corner office, Vanessa's office. Mark followed us, confused, agitated. "You can't go in there. That's the manager's office. Hey, I'm talking to you." I opened the door and walked in. Sarah followed. Vanessa was sitting behind her desk, flanked by two other people, a man in a gray suit, HR director, and a woman with a severe face, legal counsel. Mark burst in behind us. "Vanessa, I'm so sorry. These people are crazy. I told you about them. They're stalking me. I'll get security to—" "Sit down, Mark," Vanessa said, not looking up from the file in front of her. The tone wasn't affectionate. It was judicial. "What?" he stammered. "Sit down," she repeated, pointing to the chair in the center of the room, the interrogation chair. Mark sat, looking from Vanessa to me to Sarah, his brain trying to calculate the angles, trying to find the lie that would save him. "We have a formal complaint," the HR director said, voice dry, monotone, "filed by Sarah Reynolds regarding sexual harassment, creating a hostile work environment, and blackmail." Mark laughed, a nervous, high-pitched sound. "That's a lie. She's the one obsessed with me. I have evidence. I was going to file a report today. She's mentally unstable." "Actually," I cut in, pulling out the flash drive from my pocket, "we have the evidence, Mark." I placed the drive on the desk. We have the recovered text messages you deleted from her phone, proving you initiated the relationship, proving you pursued her, proving you conspired to fabricate a work conflict to hide the affair, and proving you threatened to use false allegations to destroy her career if she spoke up." Mark's face went gray. "And," Vanessa added, sliding a photo across the desk, "we also have proof that while you were claiming to be harassed by Sarah, you were sending explicit messages to me and to a third party outside the company, soliciting favors in exchange for proprietary company information." That was the nail in the coffin. I hadn't even known about the proprietary info, but Vanessa had done her own digging. She found out he was leaking designs to impress his other girlfriends. Mark stood up, knocking his chair over. "This is a setup. You're all crazy. I'm the victim here." "You're fired, Mark," Vanessa said, standing up, effectively looking 10 feet tall. "You're fired for cause, for gross misconduct, for sexual harassment, and for corporate espionage. Security is waiting outside to escort you. You have 5 minutes to clear your desk." "And, Mark," I said, stepping between him and the door, "if you ever, and I mean ever, contact Sarah or mention her name or try to leak anything, I will personally hand over the rest of the file to the police. Extortion is a felony, Mark. Do you want to add prison time to your unemployment?" He looked at me, and for the first time the mask was completely gone. There was no charm, no mirror, just a scared, small, pathetic boy who realized he had played a game with adults and lost everything. He didn't say a word. He just turned and walked out, head down, passing the glass walls where his colleagues were watching, the whispers already starting, the rising star burning out in real time. We stood in silence for a moment, the air in the room feeling lighter, cleaner. Vanessa looked at Sarah. "I'm sorry," she said, surprisingly soft. "I didn't know." Sarah nodded, tears silent on her cheeks. "Neither did I." We walked out of the building, into the bright Chicago sunlight. The storm had passed. The city looked crisp, sharp. We stood on the sidewalk, the noise of traffic surrounding us. Sarah turned to me, her eyes searching mine, looking for a sign, a hint of the husband she used to know. "Ethan," she said, voice trembling, "thank you for saving me. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," I said, putting my hands in my pockets. "Can we—" She hesitated, biting her lip. "Can we grab a coffee and just talk?" I looked at her, really looked at her. She was the woman I had loved for 10 years, the woman I wanted to grow old with. But she was also the woman who blocked me when I was in London, the woman who let a stranger sleep in my bed, the woman who only came back when her fantasy fell apart. I saved her from the monster, yes, because it was the right thing to do, but you don't rebuild a house on a foundation that's turned to ash. "No, Sarah," I said, voice gentle but final. "We can't." Her face fell, crumbling. "But why? We fixed the problem. Mark is gone." "Mark was a symptom, Sarah, not the disease," I said. "The disease was that you stopped choosing me, you stopped respecting me, and when things got hard, you looked for an exit. I can't be with someone I can't trust when my back is turned." "Ethan, please," she reached for my hand. "I can change. I'll do anything. The conditions are gone. I just want you." I stepped back, just an inch, but it was a chasm. "I know you do, right now, because you're lonely and scared, but I deserve to be more than a safety net. I deserve to be the first choice, not the backup plan." I pulled out my phone, called an Uber. "The divorce papers are with my lawyer," I said. "You can keep the furniture. I don't want any of it. It has too many ghosts." The car pulled up, a black sedan reflecting the skyline. "Take care of yourself, Sarah," I said, opening the door. "Ethan," she cried out, one last desperate plea. "Where are you going to go?" I got in the car, looking at her through the open window, one last time. "I'm gonna build something new," I said, "something that lasts." I rolled up the window, and as the car merged into the traffic, moving away from the past, I didn't look back. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the air of a new life. The phone in my pocket buzzed, a notification from my firm. London project, approved. Lead architect, Ethan Reynolds. I smiled, looking at the horizon. The blueprint was blank, and for the first time in months, that was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen.